Let me see. Here we go. Alright. How to change my destiny? How do I change my destiny? That's a great question, right? So, recently I've been listening again to those series by Tony Robins. It's called Personal Power, Day 7, and he's talking about that how everything we do in life is result of our values and our beliefs. And it's not a new concept. I heard the concept before from somebody else, from Itzhak Pintusevich actually. He says ценности and the things we believe in. Убеждения, ценности and убеждения. Our values and our beliefs determines everything we do in life, and sometimes it happens very unconsciously. Like we don't even think about it. We just do things, we make decisions. But if we really stop and think, and we start digging, and we ask ourselves, why did we make this decision? Why did we react a certain way? And really goes back to what we believe in and what our values are. And that determines everything in our life. So if you accept this theory, then once we change our values and our beliefs, we can change the course of our life, and we can change the direction of our life, because then we start thinking differently and then we start making different kind of decisions. So that was Tony Robbins, very powerful ideas. I'm still exploring the way he applies it, and he has these different exercises. And then I was also learning Maimonides, Rambam, Ilhot Talmud Torah, chapter number 3. He's talking about the greatness of the Torah. And there's a statement also by the rabbis that everybody knows. All the second grade, third grade kids, everybody knows the statement, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. That the study of Torah is like, it outweighs all the mitzvot. It outweighs all the mitzvot. It's the most important mitzvah there is Talmud Torah, is the Torah study. This is the most important mitzvah. And Rambam basically says in his chapter 3 of Talmud Torah the same idea, just in different words, and then he explains the reasoning behind it. Because if you think about it, it's like, how could it be just studying is nice, right? But is that as great as giving charity? Is it more important than helping somebody? Is it more important than putting on tefillin? How could that be? I never understood this. How could it be Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? The Talmud Torah is the study of the Torah is the most important mitzvah. And he explains, because all the other mitzvot, you do it impacts you did something great, and that's it. But Talmud Torah, when we study Torah, it's mivi liidei maaseh. It leads us to action. It leads us to action. So after listening to Tony Robbins, I think I understand now the idea behind this. It's because when we study something, right, it becomes part of us. Our perspective changes. Our values change over time, right? Because whatever you study it becomes part of the way you think. And when you think differently, you start living differently. You start thinking differently, and you change your course, your direction of life over time. And this is happening over time. But this person consistently studying Torah, his values change and his beliefs change. And this is, I think, exactly what Tony Robbins was saying, that once person's values and beliefs change, his destiny changes. And I find it quite fascinating, this whole link. And and now it also becomes clear what the rabbis meant when they have these very strange statements. Chazal, they tell us, in the name of God, God says, I wish you left me, but not my Torah. How do you understand this? Halavai, I wish you left me, but not my Torah. How do you understand this? And now it becomes clear, because if person doesn't leave Torah, if he doesn't abandon the study, whatever mitzvot he's neglecting right now, he will return to them tomorrow. Why? Because Talmud Torah, learning of the Torah, is going to change his values system, is going to change his beliefs, and it's gonna lead him to action. he's gonna learn about those mitzvot, and he's gonna embrace them, and he's gonna get a better understanding why we do what we do, and what's the significance, and why each mitzvah is powerful in its own way. And person is gonna change, and he's gonna come back to God. So God says, I'm not worried if you leave me, but what I'm worried about, if you leave my Torah. If you stop studying, then eventually you might leave me. Why? Because you're not reinforcing the core, right? You're not reinforcing the values and the beliefs. So that's why Talmud Torah is Keneged Kulam. It's the most important mitzvah there is, to study the Torah. That's something we have to dedicate time every day. Every day we have to set aside time to study Torah. And this is actually the first question when we get home, right? When we get to Olam, when we leave this world, this temporary world, and we go to the world to come, we go to Olam HaNeshamot. They asked us at the judgment, they asked us, did you set aside time to study? That's going to be the first question, because if person failed to set aside time to study, his whole life is going to be very different. And if he made the priority to study Torah, then his whole life is going to be different. Like we saw that from the Rambam, like we saw by the Tony Robins, the person's beliefs and values change over time if he studies Torah. This is the most important mitzvah we have. Right, friends, I wish you an amazing destiny. I wish you an amazing life, very meaningful life, because when one person has Torah, the life becomes very, very meaningful. That's the kind of life I wish for you and for myself. Alright, L'chaim, good night. I'll see you later, my friends.